businesses are like, they're like those turkey temperature things where you stick them in the turkey in the marketplace and it tells you what temperature they are. Hey, podcast listener, even if you are alone in your entrepreneurial pursuit, know that today, right now in your earbuds, you are joined by thousands of entrepreneurs all around the globe seeking to do the same thing you are. If you want to know more about this program or this podcast, or want to get barraged by a lot of annoying pop-ups, check out our website, lifestylebusinesspodcast.com. Yeah, buddy, happy Thursday morning. It's the Lifestyle Business Podcast. This is where we believe building a business is the best way to create more personal freedom in your life. Speaking of personal freedom, it's Mr. Captain Freedom here. The captain, I don't know. A man who prefers his beer like his books. You like Saigon Green and not Saigon Red.
Yeah, it's just like my soy sauce. Is it low sodium? Is that what the Saigon Green's about?
Not quite. I think it has something to do with alcohol content.
Party on.
Righto. Yeah, maybe the green version is like we're just getting started, and the red one is like maybe you should stop, bro.
Yeah. For me, the red one is hangover. The green one is less hangover. That's why I drink it.
All right, we got a couple quick news items. If you guys are not yet on the Twitters, check us out at Anything Ian and at Tropical MBA. It's a great way to sort of share links with each other and sort of just touch base and stuff like that.
Yeah, best way to connect.
Absolutely. Speaking of connection, we have a Chicago and an Amsterdam DC events coming up. If you guys are in those metro areas and want to hook up with other DCers, do send us a message on the Twitters or something, and we'll hook you up with the event organizer.
DCX, baby. These guys are self-organizing. We got no control, man. They're just going and doing it.
Speaking of going and doing it, we got a phone call from Tom. Let's take a listen.
Hey guys, this is Tom Sliker from Wagner, South Carolina. I just wanted to say thank you for the podcast. I've enjoyed it so much, I decided to quit my job after 28 years, a 2-hour commute every day, and today's my last day. So thank you guys for the encouragement. Looking forward to hitting the ground running as I try to expand my current business, Broad Street Consulting. You guys have been a great encouragement, and I thank you very much.
Tom dropping the phone call, a little bit of a heart warmer, I got to say.
That is awesome.
Awesome. I think if there were an award for best email of the week, it would be going out to you, Tom. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dave Ramsey style. Keep it up.
Absolutely. All right. On to the meat and potatoes, Ian. This one's number 155, The Power of Negative Action. I read this book by Nassim Taleb. Nassim Nicholas Taleb. The book's called Anti-Fragile. First thing, if you get anything out of this episode, is that you flip it off right now, you go to audible.com and you buy Anti-Fragile. That's more important than listening to this episode. But if you want to get the Cliff's Notes, Ian and I will deliver the Cliff's Notes for you here. Here's the basic idea. Taleb says it's really important to understand the concept, in particular for entrepreneurs, but for anybody interested in health, economy, investing, to understand the concept of anti-fragile. And it's even more important because we don't really have a word for it. So Taleb was so kind as to give us a word. So if you go to the average person and say, what's the opposite of fragile? They're going to say...
robust?
Strong.
Maybe.
Yeah. And we talked about this earlier, but the idea is that it's not really the opposite. The opposite of fragile would be something that benefits from chaos. And small business entrepreneurship, startups, are things that could benefit from changing conditions. Your career, your 401k, things we traditionally think as robust, are things that would not generally benefit from massive changes.
Correct.
I mean, we all have the example of somebody who has what we would call a robust career or a robust portfolio full of mutual funds or a robust 401k that did not do so well when things changed.
I think before we started reading and learning about anti-fragile, we were doing things in our business to try and make it more robust, right? We were trying to build the walls around our fort to be thicker, right? Or around our house to be thicker, so it can withstand as many cannonballs as possible, right? And what we're talking about here is not necessarily building robust walls, but building walls that benefit from cannonballs hitting them.
I love it, man. You know, we've actually made some concrete changes in our business after having read this book. So let's just walk through a quick 6-step heuristic, a way that you can consider, are you building an anti-fragile business, something that's going to benefit from the inevitable changes that the world is going to see? And who knows, it looks like the world's changing even faster, with all this technology coming down the pike. And we want to be in a secure position that can also give us tons of upside in terms of financial wealth and opportunities and fun.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, so here's the 6-step anti-fragility heuristic and how to implement it. And we're going to get to that. So first, does my action scale? Are the types of actions that myself and my business taking, do they scale? So this is the difference between writing a process. A process will scale not only through your employees, but through, it's so fascinating to see this SOD document that I created for our new business. I've got people now we've got 3 people in the business, and to see the newest employee come in, Kim, to see her executing stuff based on decisions that were made months ago and making great judgments, like judgments that give us leverage in the business.
Right.
Based on decisions that we made one time and 6 months ago.
Right.
That's an action that scales. Blog posts scale. If you're going to sit down and write your principles in a blog post, that could scale over 1,000 people. Why are you laughing?
Let me give you an example of this. Yeah. So last night, we tried to, we're starting this new piece of software, right? And we had contacted a guy about a domain. And he wrote me back and said, yeah, that domain's available. It's $20,000. And I wrote him back. I took a good 5 minutes. I wrote him back. And it said, hey, buddy, here's how the internet works these days.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So this is totally not a scalable action, right? What I should have done is I should have taken that information and we should have made a podcast about it, because that kind of information scales when it's on the podcast. It doesn't scale when I write this guy in Los Angeles and tell him how the web works, right? It's a total waste of time.
Yeah, I love these really high-level things because it simplifies what we look at as very complex things. A career does not scale. A portfolio of small businesses does scale. A blog post does scale. A client phone call does not scale. So, you ask yourself, are the actions that you're most focused on, do they have scale to them? All right, number 2 question you're going to ask yourself, does it create many options? This is the concept that Taleb talks about called optionality, and it's a financial term. It means once you've made your initial investment, which ideally would be low, and we'll get to that, it would open up a broad range of investments or options to you. This is the reason that I did not become a professor, because once you make that initial investment of getting your PhD, your options are actually very slim. Whereas when you become a business person, you have an incredible amount of optionality. So ask yourself, are you creating actions? Are you doing things in your business regularly that give you tons of options rather than narrowing your options?
Right.
Number 3, ask yourself, does my action exist in a high upside environment? This is the reason that we started the software company, because we were getting to that point in our business where we had such a large market share that our actions had diminishing returns. And so we needed to start asking ourselves, we're doing things at scale, like we're creating products, but we're doing those scaled actions in a non-high upside environment.
Right. So that's a question that we talk about all the time on this podcast is this market big enough? Is it interesting enough for us to participate in? And the answer for us in the past is no. We've picked a couple markets that are very small and they don't have a high upside. They're not high upside environments for us. We can see what the top looks like. In some of them, we're at the top. In some of them, and it doesn't scale past that. We have to pivot into something new.
Yeah, and even when you look at our growth, it's so linear, right? If there was a bum rush and everybody was like, oh my gosh, portable bars are the most amazing thing on the planet, and everybody came to us, we'd be like, well, we don't have the stock because we're moving steel. So this is a difference. If you choose to put your TP on steel, you're going to have a low convexity compared to if you had software.
Especially at the scale that we're playing at right now.
Yes, absolutely. So the next question you're going to ask yourself is, does my action cost me very little of my net worth? And the classic example would be like the over-leveraged real estate investor or the person who has all of their net savings in a 401k. Really, Mark Cuban's investment strategies are very anti-fragile. He says well over half of his net worth is in cash. And the reason is that the biggest opportunities are for him to basically swoop when he sees huge distressed assets, etc. And those are really the incredibly high upside opportunities. And because he's doing it with such a small percentage of his personal wealth, he continues to have the flexibility. So it's interesting. Mark Cuban's primary goal is not to outpace inflation. That is a robust strategy to investment. An anti-fragile strategy to investment would be to maintain your flexibility so that you can get yourself involved in extremely high upside environments. And man, this really changes the way we're looking at a lot of our businesses, right? Like rather than preserve what we have, like why don't we position ourselves to realize huge upsides. And the cool part about it is that it's not really necessarily a money thing all the time. It's more of a mindset and focus. You don't want to spend 70 to 80% of your energy and money trying to outpace a 10% inflation. Like that's just a very linear way to look at the universe. And the whole idea is like, why don't we leverage these chaos to see these incredible upside opportunities? And I don't know, it might work out. Let's take a stab at it, right?
Right.
One of the things that Felix Dennis says in How to Get Rich is he says, the best way to become rich is to have this mindset that you have nothing to lose. And so he often says that if you're in your mid-20s and you realize that you want to become wealthy, you're in a much better spot in terms of mindset than the person who has more experience and is farther along, because they're going to operate as if they have something to lose. In other words, they're going to act robust.
Right.
And so the person in their 20s is going to make these bets on flyers and crazy things that have huge upside opportunity.
You and I make this joke all the time. It's like, wow, I'm just expecting to wake up tomorrow and have the whole thing leveled, right?
Yeah.
I'm just waking up tomorrow and I'm going to see the inbox and it says game over, right? And we say, all right, game over. What's next, right? We've built a skill set. We've configured ourselves to try and make it so that doesn't matter, so that we're anti-fragile.
Yeah, we're flexible. If one industry goes down, we can take that entrepreneurship skill set and move it into another industry. All right, so the final 2 points are action points. Like, how do we implement this kind of stuff? And one of the things I love about the way Taleb talks is he talks about the importance of negative actions. So ask yourself, are there any negative actions that you can take to get yourself there? So this is like a really high leverage way of thinking. Like, for example, could you stop buying stuff? Could you stop spending money rather than earning more money? Could you stop hanging out with vampires? Could you stop eating unhealthy food?
Can you start firing some of your clients?
Could you stop going to your job? Yeah, it's the 80-20 principle. Aren't there things in your life that, just stop doing them? They're taking you on the wrong path. It's that if you're spending 70% of your energy managing a portfolio that has limited upside potential, why don't you just stop all that?
Right.
It's very fascinating to me. It's very kind of, that makes a lot of sense.
Sounds easy.
All right, the second question you want to ask yourself is, what is the most elegant way that I can commit to this investment, action, task, or project? And this is, we kind of call this like you stir everything up and then you come back in a more elegant way, like elegance of action. And it's the same thing that Google did with PageRank. John Myers was telling me this story last night. He said, it's amazing that they created a multi-billion, like one of the most valuable companies in the entire history of humankind with one solution. They stepped back from the information problem and said, you know what? We could solve this with a PageRank algorithm. One solution. And I often ask myself this question. What is it that's holding us back from this task that we don't have to do in order to launch it? We say this all the time in our business, right?
Yeah. So in one of our niches, we were involved in an organization, kind of like a sanctioning body for the market, right? And that disappeared. And so we were thinking, well, okay, we're the leader of the industry. How can we kind of recreate that? And so we figured out a lot of different and very robust ways to get into that. Well, so we'll start an organization. We'll basically copy what they did. We'll have a treasurer. We'll have all this stuff, right?
Yes.
And it's this very robust kind of copycat idea. But the most elegant way to commit to the investment is to start small for us, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to send out a video camera to some of our customers. They're going to tape record what they think is going on in the industry. We're going to put it in our newsletter, and then if that goes over well, then we're going to start building on that. So we're not just going to invest all this time and money and effort to try and recreate this thing. We're going to slow hand it. We're going to do it piece by piece and see if it works out. That way, like anti-fragile, we don't have much to lose, right? So if the first thing doesn't go well with the video recording, then that's fine. We'll scrap it. We didn't spend $30,000 to try and get into this.
Exactly. I mean, I can think of countless examples. Just one the other day, we had this big mastermind movement going on in the DC where I think like 40 new people are going to get involved in masterminds. Already a lot of people are involved, but now we're starting this new process and we got a bunch of people signed up. And I was like, why aren't we already on the phone with all these people? What's holding us back? And it turns out that we were having trouble scheduling a webinar that was like a training webinar, and people like were all around the world. And we just sort of sat around as a team and we said, do we need to do that? And the answer was no. In order to achieve the type of result that we want to see, we don't have to do that, but we had injected it. We had made it more complicated. It was not the most elegant solution. So we just deleted it. We said, let's not do that. And now we've shipped.
Right.
And I think that that's a really cool way to look at your business. Always ask yourself, this isn't about being lazy. It's about putting your energy in the the best places, that have the most upside potential. So that for me, like I know that when you write a blog post, you're not always going to have instant results. But if you're thinking about this in terms of long term, sometimes writing that blog post that really moves a concept or moves your marketplace forward is a much better anti-fragile investment. It has convexity, it has optionality, it has scale, it has everything we're looking for, more so than being on the phone with your client all afternoon. And that's a tough decision to make when you don't have the ability to make that kind of investment, right? When you maybe you've got, say, a job, or you've got bills, or you've got a mortgage, and so you're on the phone with the client all afternoon. But if you take this anti-fragile strategy, it might inspire you to say, you know what? I'm gonna negative action. No mortgage, no job, no this, no that, no vampires, and I'm gonna move my marketplace forward with scale, with optionality. But I'm just going to go pick up Anti-Fragile and read it this afternoon. That's probably the most anti-fragile thing that you can do. All right, let's get moving on to just the tips. Really quick, let me tell you how an SEO consultant could leverage this anti-fragile. A lot of people in our community they're consultants, they're especially internet marketing consultants. So what you would ask yourself is, I'm on the phone with my clients all day long, basically selling my expertise. And I'm dousing the business with myself because that's insta value. Right. But that's not convex value. That's not scalable value. So ask yourself, is there a way in which your clients could participate in the same values we're talking about today? Could they create a more anti-fragile business for themselves? Yes. For example, you could provide an auditing service. What is an auditing service that would move them one step forward every week in their business? What's the price on it? Now, your job goes from being on the horn with the client every day to telling the marketplace about audits, describing your process, moving the whole industry forward. That's anti-fragile, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a little bit, I think. All right. Hey, let's talk about George Washington, A Life by Ron Chernow. If you're going to get on audible.com, get Anti-Fragile, do check out. This is a new biography of relatively new biography of George Washington. And he is such an inspiring character, a man not without his flaws, but an exceptional personality, an exceptional entrepreneur, and a great story about the formation of a great country.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. You just put it on my radar.
Yeah, and also, speaking of putting things on people's radars, John Myers is just a magnet for cool, and he is sharing all kinds of interesting information with us. One of the things I want you guys to take a look at, if you've got some spare time, is this video that Peter Thiel made a speech at South by Southwest about the nature of luck and about how the ways in which you can and cannot predict the future. And he asked the fundamental question, are successful entrepreneurs just lucky? Or is there something more to it? And of course, this is coming from Peter Thiel, the guy who's had, a few successful ventures.
I think the title is You Are Not a Lottery Ticket.
That's right. Hey, speaking of successful ventures, Phoenix just came out with a new record. Thank goodness. This is called Entertainment. We hope we entertained you just a tinge today, and we hope to see you back next Thursday morning.
Booyah.
Yeah, buddy.